Hello everyone, good evening all of you. A warm welcome to our masterclass today. Today's topic is Beyond Modeling Data Governance Strategies for High Performance BIM Projects. And with us today, we have Mr. Arvind Raghav. Arvind Raghav is a seasoned BIM VDC professional with a demonstrated history of leading digital delivery across large scale real estate and infrastructure projects. Arvind currently holds the position of Assistant General Manager at DLF Limited. Arvind, we are really more than happy to have you on today's session. And Arvind, over to you. You can present your screen.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for the welcome. And I'm looking forward to a great session today.
Yes,
Let me just share my screen. Yeah,
yes, we can see your screen. Perfect.
great. Okay. All right. So I guess let's start. So, first of all, good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining today. And it's kind of a pleasure for me to address today's masterclass with the topic. So basically, today I want to talk about something that sits underneath almost every BIM success story and also almost every BIM failure story as well. So that is basically the information quality of BIM models. We often say a project has strong BIM because the model looks coordinated, the geometry looks very clean and presentable, and the clashes are also almost negligible, and the clash process is matured enough and everything is fine. But in practice, when we see many BIM deliverables fail because the model is not having the required information inside the different elements, and it is inconsistent and it is impossible to validate that particular information also sometimes, so which makes it unreliable to scale overall. So this is what our today's topic is basically, beyond modeling, governance strategies for high performance BIM projects. So when you hear about high performance BIM projects, you might be thinking about what is it, whether it is about modeling, good speed modeling or good quality of modeling, clash resolution or trusted information at delivery. So there are different mindsets and different thoughts and thinking about how we can define a good high performance BIM project. So that we will understand today overall. Now the first thought that comes when you hear the BIM performance for majority of the BIM leaders or BIM professionals in the industry is about the modeling speed or automation or maybe a good federated coordination model and all of these things. I am not saying they are not important. Yes, they are very much important, and a good clash-free model is also very important. But if a model cannot be trusted at the handover, or it cannot be checked consistently, or cannot support the downstream team use cases, then the project is still underperforming as an information delivery system. So what happens is, a lot of times we have a very good model, but ultimately that model is not useful for the maintenance or the facility management team and overall. So that's
So
what.
Arvind, I have a question. So have you seen projects where the model looked complete, but the confidence in the data was still low?
Yes, I have seen actually a lot of projects like that. And to be very honest, in DLF also we have some of the projects where the some of the models do not have the required information, or
Mhm.
if they have the information, then the information is not in a structured manner with which we can utilize basically for different purposes. So
Right.
there are different scenarios. We'll look in to different scenarios in the today's presentation in the later on stage.
Okay.
So I will just first of all go through the today's agenda. So what exactly we are going to discuss today, from overall strategic framing to a practical delivery of data governance. So I will first frame why BIM performance is fundamentally a data problem, basically. Then we will also showcase where project typically lose performance between written requirements and actual delivery. And after that, I will cover the CAD to BIM transition and what data governance actually means in practice. And then the one of the very important topics that we are going to discuss today is what is IDS and why does it matter, and what exactly we mean by IDS and how we can implement that on a real particular project. So basically, this entire presentation or the class is going to move from a strategic framing to a practical execution where we will be defining the BIM performance, basically how we should measure the BIM performance and the information quality, not only by modeling outputs, or explore we will explore the typical points where the information quality breakdowns as well. So these are the things we'll cover. I will move on to the next slide. So basically, the entire class is divided into 7 different segments. So the first segment is, BIM performance usually comes from weak information control, not just the poor geometry. So
Right.
that is what I want to shift the conversation from how well was it modeled to how trustworthy is the information being delivered. So our focus is not about how the particular model is created, whether it is good looking, whether it is clash free or not. Our agenda today is whether that model or the information inside the model. So BIM is basically building information modeling. In that, I is the information, which is very
Right.
important, which a lot of people forget about during the whole process. So that on I we are focusing today. So
Okay.
the first question that occurs in our mind while discussing all of this data governance and BIM information. So why this topic actually matters? If our model is looking great and everything is fine, it's clash free. Why do we care about it, the information or the different things? So basically, many organizations have invested heavily in BIM authoring and coordination and collaboration processes, especially in India nowadays. Almost every construction industry organization, whether it's from the consultant side, contractor sides, or the developers as well, everyone is heavily investing in BIM. And everyone wants to adopt BIM as well, but they have some of them has adopted it, some of them are in the process. So there
Yes,
are
adoption
different
level
levels.
is different.
Yes, adoption level is very different. But as expectation, when we see the outside India projects or
Hmm.
the clients which are outside India, we see there is a shift in the expectations towards a structured delivery. Now, the clients are asking about more about the asset information, the digital trustworthiness of the project data. So basically, they just not really care about how the model is looking or whether it's clash free or not. That is now kind of a basic requirement that it should be
It's a
there.
necessity. Yeah.
It's a necessity, correct. So now the next level of BIM development or adoption, whatever we want to call it, is the data. And
Right.
as we all know, AI is also coming up, and AI is all about data. So if we have the right data in a right structured manner, then that's how AI will also get involved in overall AEC industry along with BIM. So data is very important. So the tradition definition of model quality is now no longer enough in terms of whether the geometry is perfect, or when we say LOD 100, 200, 300, 400 levels. So we usually discuss or focus more on, the what is the high width of the door or
Right.
the height of the door, and whether it has the locking system or not, all of that. But now the requirement is shifting towards the information inside that particular door element.
Right.
So that we'll discuss in the later on slides. So so now the question is not only whether a model exists, but whether it performs as an information asset or not. That's
Mhm.
the main question that we are discussing here today. So this is why the data governance has become central to BIM maturity, because a model may be clash free, visually impressive, yet still fail because key equipment's information or space data is missing and or inconsistent basically in the model. We have seen, and in fact I have also reviewed a lot of models where the data is there, but
Mm.
it is not really useful because there is no particular standard which has been followed in putting that particular data.
Every stakeholder using their own format.
Yes, that is also another problem, that every stakeholder is using their own different formats, and the interoperability of data is
Yeah.
also very difficult. Because if you don't follow a particular structured manner, it becomes almost unusable. So this is the reason why this particular topic is the most important in today's date. Now, when we talk about what high performance BIM really means
Mm.
is basically when project teams talks about BIM performance, the conversation is mainly focused on speed, automation, and model size. Or we discussed a lot of times the which software we are going to use, whether it's going to be Revit. In Revit also, it has a another nuisance that the different versions. It is Revit
Which
24,
was
26, 27, and all of that. So the
also
overall
cost.
yes, of course, the cost as well. So the overall discussion revolves around these things only when we see a discussion in a BIM team.
Right.
But the true performance should be judged by whether the model behaves as a reliable delivery system or not. That is what I believe. And can the basically can we trust the information that is there in the model, or the requirements are validated through that particular information or not? And can the downstream teams what I mean over here with the downstream teams is basically the teams which are depending on the output which is coming from the models. So in case of a construction project, we can say the budgeting, the billing team, the site execution team. These are all teams which uses the data coming from the mod. So this is what I mean by the downstream teams. So whether they can use the particular data without rebuilding the models, or guessing it, or mainly correcting it. So if they can use the BIM model, then it is actually a good BIM model. So if the answer is no, then the project may be digitally active but not digitally mature. So a fast moving team can be low performing if the issues model quickly and but repeatedly delivers the incomplete or inconsistent information. So high performance BIM should be defined by whether the information can be supported. Sorry, the information can support the exchange, checking, and the issue resolution, and the delivery, and the long term use with the confidence. So if
Right.
the model cannot be used in a long term scenario, whether by the operations team or the facility management team, then we need to think: are we really building a good BIM model, or
Right.
what's the point of actually building a model? So in other words, the performance includes trust and reliability, and the repeatability of the usage of that particular model. So
Since Arvind, we are talking about BIM performance. In your experience, what is the biggest source of BIM performance loss in any environment? Is it just the unclear requirement, inconsistent authoring, or just bad checking?
yes, I think it's a mixture of all of them, what you have mentioned, because it's not just about one thing. I believe I'm already, so this is what I also have,
Okay,
covered
perfect.
in the presentation. So basically, the BIM project lose the performance because of, I think, the main four reasons is that. So requirement is mainly, why do we need a BIM model? Why do we need
Correct.
to create a BIM model, and what kind of information requirement we will have from the model is normally trapped inside documents. So whenever we do any particular project, we always create a EIR, BEP
Mm.
documents, and all of these documents. But ultimately, we both have worked in the industry, and we have seen that majority of these documents are created in the initial stage of the project. But when the
Correct.
project moves in a faster delivery pace, especially in Indian projects, nobody really looks at those particular documents after a certain stage. So
Right.
that is one of the major challenges, where we have defined initially what information we require and everything, but we don't look back to those particular requirements. So that is one case scenario where we lose the overall performance. Then the quality checks basically are nowadays more or less manual. So, and it
Mm,
is more or less reactive. Once we find out that there are, lot number of clashes, or maybe the quantities are not matching somehow, or there are some errors in the model, then we try to find out what's the issue, why these quality mistakes happened, or why we are not able to use the model for handover purposes, for different data extraction. So because of the manual quality check, and nobody is actually looking towards checking the information inside the model, this kind of issue happens. So again, that is one of the reasons why a BIM project loses its particular uh, credibility, I would say. Then, I feel that most of these BIM performance losses are not really dramatic.
mm,
They accumulate through the small
correct,
inconsistencies. One discipline basically names parameter differently. Other
correct.
discipline names the parameter in their own manner, or maybe the name of the parameter is same, but the input inside the parameter can be different. So then one team uses local standard family, and
Correct.
somebody is using their branded family bank or something. We have worked with.
Especially if you have a international consultant.
Yes, if you work with international consultants, they normally have their own family
Mm,
bank, which is
yep,
very standardized and in a very structured manner. So if you mix both of them, then it becomes very difficult.
right.
Nothing matches to each other. So then one consultant may interpret the requirement differently, and the another can interpret the requirement differently. So whenever we write BP documents, also we have seen that some of the people takes the overall language of the BEP document in a different manner. Somebody
Mm,
understands something different, and somebody understands something different. So that is also the one of the reasons. Then so these are not isolated mistakes. Basically, they are governance gaps. When multiplied across a particular project, they reduce the trust and increase the rework, and
mm,
slow the overall delivery of the project. So it doesn't happen in one night or in one particular delivery. It happens throughout the duration of the project, slowly and steadily. So one
correct.
after other, the problems keep on piling up, and then it becomes a blunder.
Right.
And according to me, the biggest performance losses usually happens in information control. Basically,
Mm,
a requirement often stay trapped in all of these documents, EIR, BPs, and or emails, majorly, rather than become active checking rules.
mm,
If we somehow convert these particular requirements into an active checking rule, or a machinable checking rule, basically, then it becomes actually useful. So that is what we are going to discuss in the later on slides. So during this entire class, I have what I've done is I've taken one element as an example, which we will see the journey of how the data governance can happen. So that
interesting.
one element that I've selected is a door. A door basically can look amazing or correct in the model if you have placed the right family and everything. So so basically, the phrase beyond modeling is important because it captures a shift that many teams still need to make. Uh, BIM authoring remains important, but it is no longer the full story. So the real challenge is the ensuring that the model behaves as dependable carrier of the information. So that requires a stronger data logic, cleaner ownership, and checking framework that you know uh, that connects requirements with actual deliverables. So
Nice.
basically, yeah, go ahead. You're saying something.
No, I said, I really like the example that you have taken. It's very easy for everybody to understand, as well as this will convey the message. I know you are transitioning it to ideas at a later stage of this class. This will be
Yes,
really interesting.
yes. That's one of the reasons why I've taken this
Told,
example.
right?
Yeah. So, yeah, let's move forward.
Okay, one
So,
second, Arvind.
yeah.
Before we move forward, I can see a couple of raised hands in the attendees panel.
Okay,
Guys, we will have an elaborate Q&A session at the end of Arvind's presentation. We will take up all your questions. In the meantime, you can also write your Q&As in the Q&A section. Our team will be parallelly answering it as well. So, you don't have to raise your hands now. We will have a separate Q&A session after this. Thank you. Yes, Arvind, please
great.
continue.
All right. So now we are in the third segment of our class today, which is about the CAD to BIM transition and the hidden data loss in this particular transition. Because when we see nowadays major players who are now entering or enabling BIM in their day-to-day work, majority of them are shifting from CAD to BIM, you
Right.
know. So they have a mindset of CAD basically. So how they used to work traditionally in AutoCAD, and what was the requirement of creating different deliverables in AutoCAD for a particular project. So this comparison is very important because BIM tools alone do not create BIM behavior. This is what I feel. So there are a lot of tools which are used in BIM processes, but the process is not defined by the tools. Tools are basically the added advantage or the drivers of that process, but ultimately the behavior of the process is defined by the mindset of the people and how you want to actually use it or implement it. So in a CAD mindset, geometry is the main output, you know, and drawings are the main proof of work. So if somebody is doing a particular project in AutoCAD only, their requirement is to create drawings as soon as fast as possible. So they do not care about anything else apart from just showcasing a good geometry in AutoCAD, you know. So information is mostly added later on, or they might ignore it also. So that is how the CAD mindset works. And they mainly focus on the naming and layering logic basically inside the CAD. So that is one of the main focuses. Then the quality review is also mostly visual in the CAD, basically, because you don't have any other options. So normally how we have seen, and we have also done the same, that when you want to compare two CADs, you just overlay both of them and just visually check what's the difference. So the mindset can continue even inside the BIM environment also once you adopt the BIM, that particular CAD mindset. But in contrast, if we see the BIM mindset, that assumes the object can carry both geometry and the information. So that information must support exchange and delivery both. That parameters and values are planned early stage, first of all, in a BIM mindset, and the quality review should be both visual and machine checkable. So we do not only depend on the visual checks. We use different tools and softwares where we can, automate the quality checking. Uh, Navisworks clash detection is one part of that particular checking. And similarly, we have a lot of other tools available as well. Now, IDS is also there. So that is one of the greatest things. And, so the shift is not only software migration, it is basically the delivery philosophy shift.
Right.
So it doesn't matter whether you work in CAD or even in BIM, but if you have the right kind of mindset of putting the information first, or the deliverable is a digital information asset, then the overall use case of BIM becomes useful. So then you actually do it. So if a lot of what I've seen personally in my experience is that what a lot of people think is that we will create a 2D CAD first, and this happens a
Right.
lot in Indian projects, that majority of the people think that we'll create a 2D CAD and from that we'll create a 3D model. So this is the whole BIM. But it is actually completely opposite. So to actually work in BIM, uh, the people should start the initial thinking, the thought process of, let's say, when an architect is conceptualizing a particular project or a design, they should conceptualize it, or they should even start doing it in BIM only. It
Correct.
can be different softwares, that is for sure. We are not saying that Revit is the only software. There are multiple softwares available, but the mindset of thinking should be from 3D itself.
3D.
So then only you actually have the geometry from the day one, and then you think about how you will put in the information as per the requirement in each and every layer.
Also, since we are in the topic, Arvind,
Yes.
also with CAD, I've faced a lot of challenges with a lot of consultants. Is that they have good drawing, the neat that their ultimate deliverable is going to be contract drawings, right? So they are submitting the drawings, but when you actually measure it, let's say if the distance between the wall is 20 feet, but when you actually
Yes.
go there and measure it, it's going to be lesser than that or more than that. So such mismatches are even a bigger problem, even when they use that data directly and convert it to BIM, like 2D to
Yes.
BIM. It
Correct.
becomes
Correct.
even bigger problem.
It becomes another challenge for
Correct.
a BIM person
BIM
to
person.
actually implement that thing. So then
Right.
the mindset
Then the
shifts
whole
from now.
scale of the drawing, completely
Yes.
breaks.
Correct, correct. And the whole mindset also shifts now,
Correct.
because if you have to deal with this kind of a problem, so the BIM person, the professional who is there to take care of creating a good BIM model, which is useful for multiple purposes, now it shifts towards making sure that the
Correct.
CAD is good enough to actually start the
CAD is
modeling.
first good enough to start the
Yeah,
modeling.
yes, yes. So this is how the CAD and BIM mindset different from one another, and we all need to think about shifting the mindset instead of just adopting the different softwares.
Can you just asking me a question? Let's say
Yes,
we have a lot of architects generally as students. So they would be the initial model authors, right, for any project. So
yes,
what is your recommended software? Let's say it's a very, very, very early stage of a project. They are going to conceptualize it. So what is the recommended software from your end that they should start with that and then they can proceed with Revit or other software? What is your recommendation?
yes. That's a really good question. And personally, I have also implemented one of these things in one of my organization where I worked. So Autodesk Forma is one of a great tool which I personally prefer of doing concept modeling. So I will tell you exactly why that is a good tool. It is not something like it has some kind of magic features available inside it that you will just type and it will create. No, you will have to do it yourself. You will have to create something yourself. And but the best thing about it is that it is connected in the entire BIM workflow.
Correct.
So if you create anything in Forma, and the way of creation for a particular user, let's say for an architect who wants to create a concept stage, model or a design option, for them, how they will do it in SketchUp or any other tool, the way is same.
Same.
It is very similar.
Takes the
It's not
same amount of time.
takes the same amount of time as well. In fact, I would say it takes little
Lesser.
lesser
Yeah.
only. Yeah, it will not take more than that. For sure. So once you create that concept thing, now to translate that concept into schematic stage or detailed design stage is very easy with Autodesk Forma, because you can simply just take that particular model into Revit and it works as a pure BIM
Model.
model. It doesn't act as just a geometry available with us. It actually
Correct.
becomes an information acceptable model. So
So
that's
to
the
just
beauty of it.
so to just rephrase it for everyone, let's say As an architect, I don't have to use AutoCAD at all. I can start my designing itself using Forma Design, where I design my concept a model, where I create my concept design, and then I use the same model and I take it to a BIM environment where I develop my DD stage model, right? Is that a
Yes,
correct? Yeah. Okay.
correct, 100% correct.
Perfect.
So now we understood the difference between the CAD mindset and the BIM mindset. But along with the CAD mindset, there is always a legacy and a habit problem. Whenever you shift, and I've seen it very personally also, and a lot of people struggle with this when they transition towards BIM workflows. So this is one of the most common reasons why BIM maturity stalls, and they face a lot of challenges. So when we talk about organizations may have moved to BIM softwares, definitely, but they have not into fully adopting the BIM thinking or the BIM mindset. So the platform changes, but the habit remains the same. So focus on drawings, rush content creation, and treat the data population as a secondary step. This is what we are seeing nowadays mostly happening. People are just creating those GFC drawings again in Revit, and the everyone wants to match up the same time frame which they used to take in AutoCAD just to extract a GFC drawing or any other stage drawing in Revit also. And in fact, like personally, I have seen and worked with some of the consultants where I've seen that people are not even creating a Revit model, a 3D model. Just they're just doing the drafting in Revit, which they used to do in AutoCAD. So that is again another problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem of CAD legacy, basically.
So I'm just sharing an example here. We got a requirement from one of very popular consultants in India, very extremely popular. Their requirement was very simple. We have created BIM model, but we have created it just for the sake of drafting it. Okay.
Yes.
So there might be chances that the wall is not aligned to the roof or the floor. So that was the scope that we have to fix the model, from the beginning. So yeah, such
Yes.
cases happens when the focus is only the drawing and not the model. Yes.
Correct. 100%. And if Rohit, if this mindset continues, the
Yeah.
organization gets 3D output without achieving the information
Correct.
maturity.
Yes.
So it is basically you are just creating whatever you was creating in 2D in now in 3D. You
Correct.
don't actually have a
Garbage
BIM
in, garbage out.
model. Correct.
Literally.
Garbage in and garbage out. Yes. So what we have seen is many teams use Revit or similar BIM tools mainly as a drawing production system rather than structured information environment. So the visual output improves, of course, no, that's not a doubt, but the information discipline often remains weak because that is their second priority. And if teams still focus mainly on sheets, creating the best annotations, but giving out the line work, dimensions, and everything. So basically, the overall presentation output, they will always underinvest in shared parameters, classifications, and the delivery rules, because the major focus is on creating a again a 2D CAD from a 3D model. So sometimes we have also seen that imported or rapidly created content even makes this as a worse. In fact,
Right.
the content may be visually usable. We have seen a lot of people. We have a lot of modelers as well who take random families from internet,
Yeah.
just download
Looks
within
good.
quick seconds. Looks good, yes, but the content is literally
Hmm.
unusable in those
Correct.
particular things. In fact, we have seen that in a Indian project, the families of some doors, windows, and some other elements was having German language or
Hmm.
Japanese or Russian as well. So these kind of inconsistencies under parametric. parameter logics, or validation of the information becomes very difficult. So the model becomes, a better looking CAD version without reliable smart data. uh, that's the whole outcome you will achieve. And that's a very common hidden loss in BIM adoption that we are looking at currently.
Right.
And for example, let's say a wall is created with a CAD mindset, where it will look perfectly fine in a drawing, in a floor plan, and it will have all the hatch patterns, the line work will be fine, everything. But when you actually select that particular wall, there can be different scenarios where you might find that that particular wall is not even created from the wall element category. It might be from model in place or something else. And in fact, if you, let's say, you find it in wall category only, but then you will go and find what's its material that is not defined, how it will perform, what kind of a fire rating it will have, what is the classification code of that particular wall, or the materials inside that wall, so that you can extract a BOQ out of it. You won't find these kind of information in majority of the projects. So that's how the CAD legacy problem becomes a major hurdle in actual BIM adoption, because the overall focus is on creating a beautiful model and 2D drawing
Right.
basically. But people actually forget that the reason of creating a BIM model is not just about extracting a glorified drawing from it. It should be that your planner can use that particular model for its planning. The safety and the quality person on execution side should be able to utilize those models to plan their safety drills and safety measures and everything. Similarly, the billing and the budgeting teams should be able to utilize that
Correct.
particular material amounts or the quantities in their particular day-to-day work. So if you have all that particular data inside the model, then it actually becomes useful. So now coming on to the fourth segment of our today's discussion is basically what BIM data governance means in practice. So now we have talked a lot about what it should be and why it matters and everything. But now we'll go on to how this will actually look like in actual project or in actual practice, or how we can implement it, basically what we have talked about today. So, before jumping directly to that, we need to understand what data governance actually means in BIM. So, data governance can be often misunderstood as bureaucracy or a documentation overhead, which is slightly true as well. And in reality, it is what project information quality at scale, basically. So it makes the project predictable. It tells team what data matters, how it should be structured, and who owns it, and also how it will be checked. So this is
Correct.
all things is basically the data governance. It is not just creating a document and define what needs to be there. So, in a high performance BIM environment, governance is what allows the quality to be repeated across projects instead of just relying on an individual effort. So, for organizations who are working on multiple projects of similar types,
Yeah.
data governance is the most important thing when they are implementing BIM. Because if, let's say, for example, DLF only, so if when DLF creates one particular project, and we are creating multiple commercial projects and multiple residential projects, if you go to any of the projects, you will find a lot of similarities, and from even from the front of the project you will be able to identify that this is a DLF project. You don't
Right.
need to uh, you know learn or see the name of the project.
Correct.
How that happens, basically, because the consistency is there, the governance is there of execution methodologies and everything. Similarly, once you define the data governance in BIM, the moment your models will start looking consistent, and whether it's on one project, two projects, 10 projects, or 100 projects, if you define the governance perfectly, your models will be consistent on all 100 projects. You know, and also, governance is not just about creating templates or writing standards. A lot of people confuse it with, we have standard templates within Revit, and we have written down each and every standards. In fact, we have seen that a lot of people create, checklists, Excel-based checklist or PDF checklist, that whenever you need to do a summation, you have to fill out that particular
Checklist.
checklist, and it should be there as part of the submission. So that is not data governance basically, and it doesn't really gives you any outcome as well. It is just about making sure that those rules are followed, checked, and accountable. That is what data governance is. So
Mm,
when governance is missing, every project ends up creating its own interpretation of acceptable information. So as
correct.
we were talking earlier, that if there is no standardized structured way of filling in the data inside the model, the the interpretation of that particular data can be different according to the different person. So
Correct.
that is another problem which governance can resolve. Now, when governance is present, team works against the same information logic across project stages and across the different participants in the project. So
Eh,
that is why the governance turns BIM quality into a actual delivery capability and not just a modeling preference. You know,
mm.
so that is what governance means in BIM.
I have a question on this, Arvind.
Yes.
Let's say if model quality fails on a project, is the root cause, usually people, tools, or is it just weak governance?
So if a model quality fails on a project,
Yeah,
in my point of view, governance is the highest factor for it.
even more than people and tools.
Yes, even more than people and tools. Why? Because see, tools are
Yeah,
nothing but how people actually utilize them. If somebody is not utilizing a particular tool will not be able to do anything.
correct.
So, and the person who is utilizing the tool, or the person who is working on the project, their mindset and their understanding of different processes and the data interpretation matters a lot. So, because of that, the different quality mishaps happens, and it happens quite regularly. Now, when I say data governance is the most important factor for it, is because it doesn't matter how many types of participants are there on a particular model for creating a particular model. If you have a standardized data governance policy, or we can say it as a quality check policy, both in terms of geometry and information we are talking about, so then anybody can work on the project. Your project model will be consistent. It will not fail in any of the quality checks. you know
So,
why? Because you will define the each and every requirement, what
mhm,
exactly needs to be there in the elements which are model, how it will be in, the format of input of that particular information will be defined, what exactly will be checked is also defined. So every you define each and everything, so you do
with
not
the
leave
BB.
any ambiguity or option of mishappening. So that's how you make sure that your BIM model quality is 100% perfect.
So all these requirements are captured in the BIM execution plan, or do we have a separate document for this?
Uh, yes. So that is why we need to talk about IDS today.
Okay.
You know, in IDS, I will show you. Let me just project my one file that I've created.
Okay.
Yeah, let me know when it's visible on the screen.
Yes, I can see the
Yeah.
Excel file. Yes.
Okay, so we have not touched yet what is IDS. So
Yes.
a lot of people might not understand it. So, but basically, this is how you define a particular requirement of your model. You know, what
Hmm.
exactly needs to be there in the model, how it needs to be input, and what is the format, what exactly you will check, what is the allowance criteria or the acceptability criteria of
Right.
different information. So there is a particular way of
Okay.
defining it. There is a particular structured manner of definition of everything. So we'll cover on this in a later stage of the our class today.
Sure.
I just wanted to show you one glimpse of it. So now, because we were talking about the governance, so governance is not just limited to the models. It comes in different layers. So team often try to solve BIM quality only at the model review stages, and which is a very common practice that we see. But by that point, many BIM problems are already embedded in the model. So the governance work only when it exists at multiple levels. So these are the three levels which you can see on the slide where the governance should be implemented. The organization layer creates the baseline of that particular logic. So if your organization has a standard defined standard templates, nomenclatures, library rules and everything, and you have a standard library also, then the governance is actually defined, and then you are able to control the quality of the data inside the model as well. Then the organization layer, uh, or the project layer, is basically adapt that particular logic to specific delivery needs. you know uh, Organization can define how their model data is going to be delivered to the client, but in a project level layer, the client requirement will be adopted in according to that data structure. So, because each and every project will have a different requirement, each and every client will also have a different requirement. So, you need to understand and you need to also capture the client requirements as well. It cannot happen that only the organization standards will continue. So, it has to be both ways. And the third layer is where those expectations become measurable through actual object data. So whatever you have a defined structure of governance at your organization level and as a client requirement on a project level, both of them actually becomes measurable on the third layer, which is the model layer. But if any one layer is weak, the whole quality chain becomes unstable. So then it will not be, it will not give you the output that you actually require or you want to achieve. So a
Correct.
project may have a strong BIM coordinator. This is what I always say. But if the company library and the shared parameter strategies are weak or
Weak.
they do not exist, then the coordinator will spend most of the time correcting unavoidable mistakes.
Correct.
Yes.
So currently, at which of these layers is your team strongest today, and which one causes the most amount of friction?
Yes. So in DLF, when we implemented BIM and ACC as well, we made sure to follow a particular governance process,
Hmm.
and we did that from starting at the organization level. So if you work on any of the DLF projects, you will find there is a standard operating process. Sorry, and the workflows which are there on different scenarios, the requirement of information which should be inside the model elements for creating a BOQ or creating 4D and 5D as well,
Hmm.
is defined by the centralized team, not by the different project teams. So
Correct.
that
Okay.
the each and every project, no matter wherever in which project you work on in DLF, you will find the same consistent
Common requirement.
methodology,
Let's say.
common requirement, same structured manner, data and everything. So we have followed the organization layer. Then,
Mm.
of course, because the different kind of projects,
Yes.
so we do both commercial and real estate
Residential.
projects,
Mm.
the residential projects. So the requirement of both the projects is little bit different. So according to
Correct.
that requirement, also we have different data structures and different workflows as well. So that is also there, and whatever the requirements that we have defined is translated into models nowadays. To answer your second part of the question,
Yeah.
where we struggle the most is actually
Yes.
the third layer, the model
Model
layer,
layer. Mm.
because the entire DLF organization has different types of teams involved
Correct.
in a particular project. And in one team also, there are a lot of people with different mindset and different roles and responsibilities for the particular project. So not everyone is really familiar with them, first of
Mm.
all. And second, that even if people are familiar with BIM, some of the people have different mindsets towards it. As I initially discussed, that some of the people have no, actually, most of the people have transitioned from 2D CAD to 3D BIM working workflows. So they still carry that 2D CAD mindset, and the legacy problems are also there. So that is where we are struggling right now. But slowly and gradually, I believe, because we have a strong organization standards and workflows, and we also take care of different project level requirements, we will easily cover these gaps.
Understood.
Yes. So moving forward, now, because we are discussing about different data, how it should be structured and everything, and governance. So now we need to understand what exactly we need to control in data governance. You know, so uh, the few or I would say the main important things that we need to control in any of the project data or the model data is, first of all, the naming conventions. So naming convention is not only limited to the file name. Naming convention is also about how you name the different elements in your model, how you name different uh, along with elements, there are a lot of supporting documents and everything associated inside the elements. So the nomenclature of all those documents is also very important. Then the shared parameters and property structures, classification and reference systems, and different these things. Then, so basically, governance often sounds abstract until it is tied to a specific area of control.
Correct.
So when I say that, what I mean is we need to understand what gets named, which parameters are actually required and mandatory, where we need to focus. Because if you open a Revit, any of the element properties, whether it's type property or instance property, you will see that there are multiple type of parameters available. So we need to understand which are the main ones, which are the mandatory ones. Then which values are acceptable in those particular parameters, how the values of those particular parameters needs to be input, the format of those values and everything. Then how should the classification work, who validates that, and these questions are where the governance becomes practical. If you ask these questions and then define the answers of these questions, that's how you actually become practical. If they are not answered clearly, uh, then quality becomes inconsistent, no matter how strong the software environment may be, or no matter how best team you have on your project. If you don't have a structured manner of data governance, the overall modeling strategy or the outcome will definitely fail. So governance becomes real only when it controls specific behavior. You know that includes naming conventions, and the property structures, classification systems, and the required values. So, for example, if let's say if a team agrees that all door objects must use the same fire rating field and the
Mm.
same format, then the reporting and checking becomes much more
Much
dependable.
easier. Mm,
Yes, because now that you have defined everything and the format is also defined and everyone follows the same format, so it becomes much easier for you to control each and everything.
right.
Yes. So now we have talked about lot about the data inside the models. Now the real question is who actually owns the data quality? Whether it's a responsibility of a modeler, architects,
BIM
engineers,
manager.
or the BIM managers, and there are information managers also. So who actually owns the data quality? So basically, the reliable information needs clear responsibility, first of all. The client or the appointing party defines what information is needed. The
Correct.
BIM or the information manager or the BIM manager translates that into a standard, rules, and discipline leads align those particular rules with the team workflow.
Correct.
Then modelers populate that data, that particular data, correctly inside the each and every element. And at the end, the quality checker, the QA responsible person, reviews the check compliance. So basically, they check it with the compliance. If there are any issues, they raise the issues and then confirm the closure of it. This is how actually you control the entire data quality. So by this, we cannot say that only it is a responsibility of the modeler or the BIM manager. It is a whole responsibility of entire team. If everyone will not work together, the data quality will definitely fail. So it is not responsibility of one single person. Everyone has to work with the mindset of having the data quality perfect. And the data quality improves when these roles are explicit rather than assumed. So these particular roles, who is doing exactly what and what is their responsibility and accountability, needs to be defined well. One reason that we have seen projects struggle is that these responsibilities are often blurred. Everyone assumes that data quality matters, but not everyone knows who owns it and at what each step one particular person has a responsibility towards the data quality. So once ownership becomes explicit, the quality management becomes much more easier. So sorry, we need to define who owns the data quality, basically. Now, coming on to the final segment of, not exactly the final segment, but the main segment of today's class is ideas. So we have talked about a lot of different quality checks, data quality checks, and everything, and why ideas is the most important thing towards that. So first of all, we need to understand the manual quality check breakdowns. Why there is a requirement of ideas,
Ideas.
basically, that will we will be able to understand it much better if we understand the problems with the manual quality check. So manual quality check usually breakdowns for three big reasons. It is slow, selective, and because reviewer rarely have time to inspect every relevant object, it becomes disconnected. When spreadsheets sit outside the source model and the issue trail becomes harder to manage. So that is where the manual QA actually breakdowns. It is inconsistent, and because of different reviewers also, and they interpret the same requirement differently, because ultimately it's a human who is reviewing the model, and each human being has a different mindset and a different perspective of checking the model also. It can be the same information, but how you interpret it is different. So, and especially when you have a delivery pressure, lot of times you just ignore it and move forward that the model is looking fine, and you ignore the data or the information inside the model. So this is why the repeatable delivery requires checking logic. First of all,
Mm.
if requirement exists only in someone's mind and only in a spreadsheet, then review quality depends too much on an individual effort. It becomes a one individual responsibility rather than an overall team's responsibility or a project responsibility. So that is where we actually require, uh, you know, that's that is where we actually require the IDS first of all. So the requirement gap in this entire transition, uh, you know, most organizations do not lack requirements completely, first of all, and they do not lack model completely as well. What they often lack is dependable connection between the two. Requirements remain static and textual when models remain dynamic and digital, basically. That creates ambiguity between what was requested and what was delivered. IDS is positioned exactly to solve this actually.
Mm.
Now we'll come on to what is IDS. We have been mentioning it multiple times during the today's session. IDS. What is IDS? So IDS is basically the information delivery specification, and it's a building smart standard for information requirement inside a BIM models. Basically, IDS, you know, it is a kind of a requirement in a form that people can read and software can interpret. So IDS version 1 was actually approved by Building Smart as a final standard on 4th June 2024. You know, so the easiest way of explaining IDS is to call it a digital rule book for BIM information instead of defining project requirements only in text documents. IDS actually allows teams to express them in a standardized format that software can interpret. That means object level information requirements can be checked more consistently, which is why the IDS is so relevant to data governance and BIM quality management. So this is the reason why we were talking about BIM governance, the gap, the transition, and the mindset differences. Because to understand IDS, you need to understand the background of these particular things. So a specification could state, that all door must contain a fire rating property, and that value must not be blank. That can only be checked by IDS. You cannot do that checking manually.
Correct.
So in now to understand IDS in detail, we need to first understand what is building smart, and how IDS came into picture or how it developed. So basically, you know, uh, Building Smart is an international body driving the open digital standards for the built assets industry, basically the AEC industry. As BIM adoption grew, the Building Smart saw that many information requirements are still being exchanged through PDFs and
PDFs.
spreadsheets, which created ambiguity and limited automation. IDS emerged from that particular problem. So Building Smart developed it through broad international collaborations so that information requirement could become clear, interpretable, and easier to validate. So by the time IDS Volume 1 was approved as a final standard, the standard already had a strong implementation maturity, which gave it a real industry credibility because it was not some developed by someone in isolation. It was developed with a collaboration of multiple uh, BIM experts, AEC industry experts in of different countries of different kind of projects, and everyone was working in collaborative way, and that's how they developed IDS. So I hope I am able to explain it very
Yes.
clearly.
Yes.
So now we need to understand why IDS matters to high performance BIM projects basically.
Mm.
So IDS matters because it transforms information requirement from passive documentation into an active validation logic. This shift is especially important on high performance BIM projects where the quality must be demonstrated repeatedly and at a scale. The real benefit is not only automation, but the clarity of the information and the requirements. Everyone works against the same requirement logic, and the result becomes much easier to measure with the help of ideas. So instead of saying, I think this model should contain these particular parameters, the team can now say that this is exactly what must exist
Mm.
and this is how we will check it. That makes quality clear, more measurable, and more repeatable as well. So if all consultants work from one shared requirement set instead of multiple internal QA lists, the project team can reduce confusion and duplicate review efforts basically. So this is why the IDS is actually matters.
So one
So
question, Arvind, if you
yes,
can go back to the last slide.
yeah.
So out of these four issues, which problem would improve fastest in any organization? If requirements becomes, digitally checkable, if you can digitally check the requirements, which problem would improve fastest in any organization?
Okay. I believe it will improve the problem of communication more or less because whenever we create a particular model and we input a information inside that model, normally what happens that one particular team is responsible for creating a model and inputting the information inside it, but the other team who is going to actually utilize that particular information generally do not trust the
Mm.
information inside the model, whether the team who was responsible for creating it has actually done the right work. And nobody has a way of actually checking that whether the information there is actually useful for them or not. So when we enable IDS, this helps that communication gap to become, or the, I would say, the trust gap
Yeah,
to become much lesser,
correct.
because when they know that IDS is there, they have already defined what information they require, how do they require it, and exactly what they will check. So that is, it is already defined, I think,
So
and it
reassurance
increases,
is not required.
reassurance is not required, so it increases your trust in that
Correct.
particular information, right?
Perfect.
Yes, so basically, to explain ideas in plain simple language, I will say that IDS is a rule book that software can read along with humans can also understand.
Mm.
So many for many people, it becomes more comfortable with IDS when it is explained in a very simple and operational language, in a practical language, and you do not need to begin with technical structure or XML language. I
Mm.
will show you, in fact.
One
Uh,
question, Arvind, let's say
yes.
ideas in plain language, right? So let's say you have to explain this to a project director in a single sentence, who has no clue about BIM or ideas or anything about that. If you have to convince them that, they have to implement ideas along with, the BIM process. So what will you tell them?
That's a very good question, actually, because once you will actually start implementing ideas on your project, the senior management is going to ask, what is
Correct.
this and why do we need it?
Because it takes up a lot of time, they will see that instantly.
Yes, yes. So basically, to explain them, you have to just tell them that IDS is a rule book where we will define exactly what do we need inside the model in terms of information for our project to get executed well enough, how we will define that particular information in the model, and how are we going to check that particular information whether it is correctly defined, correctly input or not. So this rule book is known as IDS.
And also, it is a one-time activity for an organization.
Yes. It's, yeah, of course, it's a one-time activity. You have to do it initially once you set up a particular project. So IDS is actually, has different rules which it contains, and normally IDS is defined by the client only when they are
Correct.
creating EIR document. In EIR itself, the rules for IDS should be defined. At least the expectations of the IDS should be defined, because then only you will be able to interpret it. So an IDS rule has four essential parts mainly. The first one is applicability, meaning which object are in scope, and then the second is the requirement, which means that what properties or classifications must exist, or the what parameters must exist in the Revit element or the model. And then the third is constraints, which means what values or which formats are acceptable or for those particular values of different parameters. And fourth is the result, where the model can be evaluated as pass, fail, missing data, or invalid values. I will show you an example of this. So in the next segment. So before jumping on to the example, yeah, over here. So on this particular slide, you will be able to see two different before and after images of a door family. It's the same door family, but in the left side image, if you see that the door fire rating parameter is missing the value. The assembly code is there, Omni class number is there, type mark is also there, but the fire rating is missing. So once you check this particular door in the IDS according to the rule requirement that you have set, you will see that the door will fail in the IDS. So it will be clearly visible that this particular door has failed. Now, once you input that particular data inside that the rule in that particular parameter according to the rule requirement, then only your door model or a particular element is going to pass, which I've shown on the right hand side, where we have input the information in the format that it is required, which is let's say 60 minutes. All right. So this is how the governed PIM quality becomes operational.
Operational.
Yes. So first step is we need to define the information requirement. Second is to express the rule in a structured manner. So the rule needs to be defined as well. We need to understand what exactly we are checking and how we are checking it. Then validate the model against the rule, and the correct the source and then recheck it. So this operation happens automatically on a particular machine. So you don't really need a human intervention in doing all of this, because it's a one-time setup. Once you set up the IDS by using different softwares available in the industry, or in fact you can do it through DynamoScript as well, which I will show you in a demo that I've prepared. So Revit is one of the softwares which is heavily used in the industry, and is most often where the information is created and corrected also. You know, so the door parameter may exist in Revit, and but unless it is mapped and
Correct.
exchanged properly, the checking process may fail and confirm the requirement. So how it will be transferred basically to an IDS enabled software? So there are different ways of transferring the information, but according to the Building Smart, they already have defined an IFC format, which defines the particular information can be shared, or the interoperability of the BIM models happens through IFC. So that is one format. In IFC also, you can define the different IDS requirements and rules. And through that also, you can check the different parameter values which are there in a Revit model or in any of the softwares where you can actually create a model and put in the information. Yes. So now people will have a question that where this IDS will be, usable in our day-to-day BIM workflow, how they will actually integrate it in the day-to-day workflow. So it is basically an open standard which is provided by Building Smart, and and it is part of open BIM effort of Building Smart. I have personally used IDS in two different softwares. One is BIM Collab and second is Solibri. Both of these particular softwares enable you to define the rule sets according to your requirement, and then based on those rule sets, it will check the model elements and it will give you a report of pass and fail as well. So that is how you actually implement ideas on your particular projects or in day-to-day workflows. I'm sure most of the people must be knowing about both of these platforms already because they are generally used quite heavily in the industry. Now we'll come to the interesting part. So I will just share my model on the screen. Yeah. So this is a standard Autodesk marketing model. It's
Yep.
not a DLF model. So in this, let's understand two things. One is, let's say we want to check the required information which is there inside the model elements or not. So as we were taking the example of door only during this class, we'll now over here also will take the same example of door only. So first of all, let's create a door schedule so that we get the different data that we require. We'll go to the schedules, select the door, and then we get the options to choose which properties do we need in our schedule. So we'll choose the family and type, then we'll choose the count. Then we also need the level at which the door is and the mark value. And let's also take the fire rating value where it is. Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just click OK and you will see the schedule. Now we need to sort this schedule first of all according to the level so that we are able to actually understand it in a systematic manner. So this entire schedule of doors which are present in this particular model is now structured and in a particular manner according to the different levels. So let's say on the level R2, which is roof 2, we have these many number of doors available. And over here, we can see that the each and every door has a separate mark value and an individual mark value. And then the fire rating is also defined. And you can also see that in some of the doors, it is not defined. It is blank. So let's say we have to search or we have to check that on R2 level doors, how many number of doors have the defined value or whether it is correctly defined or not, or it is in our particular format that we require and whether it is empty or not. So I will just select all the doors over here. Yes, and I would hide isolate so that we can only see those particular doors which we are talking about. And because in for today's session, I do not have the access to Solibri and BIM Collab platforms. So what I did is I created a Dynamo script in the morning, and
Interesting.
for that, so that we apply the rule set that we
And
have for IDS through Dynamo, basically. That the same thing will happen in Solibri and in other
in other,
platforms
yes.
only. Yes, it's just that they have kind of an inbuilt script, which where you define your rule sets and everything and the requirement and how do you want to check the particular data. So that thing we have manually defined in Dynamo. It is taking some time to open, and Dynamo is, like, for me, it is very unpredictable tool.
Yeah.
Lot of
You never
times,
know when it's gonna work.
yes. Okay, for now, because Dynamo window is not opening, let's go to the Dynamo player so that
Yeah,
we can run our scripts. Here are the scripts. Yes. So for this particular session, I created two different scripts with the different rule checking or different requirements that we need. So the first requirement that we are going to check is, let me just try if it opens from here or not. It's not opening.
that's okay. You can I think can run the script.
Yeah, definitely we can run the script, but I would wanted to show inside the script what exactly we are running for, and we need to change the values as well.
Oh
Let me
yeah.
just try to reopen it.
Okay, according to your roof too, you have to adjust the values, I believe.
Yeah, according to the rule sets, we have to adjust the values because we are not using the actual
Correct.
platforms for IDS. So we do not have a user interface to change that.
Correct.
So in Dynamo, you can directly change it inside the script. That's why Dynamo is very unpredictable.
But this will open up, in a much faster rate when it is not in a master class, when you are sitting alone and when you're working, this opens
Yes.
up instantly.
Like when I was actually creating the script, it just took me around an hour to just create it, and it was working perfectly fine. In fact, I, checked it multiple times that it should work on the right time, in the right manner. But yeah, it's very unpredictable. Okay, I think we should continue with the presentation. I
In the
will,
meantime, I think Arvind, what you can do is,
yeah,
keep the view as hidden line or something. That will reduce the load on graphics, and then try
yeah,
opening up Dynamo.
yeah. All right, I will try to
Sure.
keep it open in the background.
Yeah.
We need to continue with the presentation. If it opens up, I will show in the middle.
Sure. Sure.
Otherwise, let's continue. That's just a bad luck.
Can you just at least explain the logic to them?
Yes. Yes. So what exactly I was going to showcase in the the demo was we were checking the different doors in one particular level for different parameters. We were checking for fire rating parameter and the mark value. So the fire rating parameter, we were just checking which all doors have. So we had two different rule sets. One rule set was we were checking for the specific information that which doors have a 90-minute rating or a 60-minute rating or a 45-minute rating or a non-required one. Okay, so in the rule one, we were checking the specific requirement and if the how many doors pass through that particular requirement and how many
Mm.
doors fail through that requirement. So what the Dynamo script would do is all the pass doors will turn into green color and all the non-pass or the failed doors will turn into red color so that it's easily identified in a 3D view that which door
The
data
color
needs
of
to be
the door,
corrected.
the color of the door would change, whether if it
Yes,
is
the color
okay.
of the door would change. So you will be able to easily identify which door needs to be corrected. So that was one rule set. Second rule set was for finding out the missing information inside the parameter value. So in let's say in level roof 2, we selected all the doors, and from that particular level, wanted to find out which doors do not have a mark value or a fire rating value, inside that particular parameter. So the Dynamo script would what would it do is basically for all the doors which has the particular properties in the particular parameter, then those doors will turn into again green color, and the doors which do not have the values in the inside the parameters will turn into red color. So that again it is very easily able to identify which doors needs to be corrected and where you need to put the information. So this was the whole demo session that I developed today for by using Dynamo. So uh, the point is not only
Sorry,
that the
I was
technology
speaking on
works.
mute, Arvind. Let's say with,
Okay.
because let's say if the model doesn't open up in the session, what we can do rather is that we can send the Revit file as well as the scripts that you have created.
Yes,
They can test it themselves. So after the masterclass, we could run an email campaign and send it to everyone.
definitely. That will be great. I will share the scripts
Sure,
and the file with you,
sure,
and then we can circulate to all the
correct.
members. All right. So, as I was saying, the point is not only that the technology works over here. The point is that the process becomes cleaner and team knows what is required. The checking logic is repeatable and the output is easier to act on. This is why the governance and validation together are so powerful in BIM delivery. And after so same logic can be applied in multiple elements. It's just that the door that we were talking about today, but the same logic can be applied on walls, windows, floors, etc. All different elements. And once we create any particular project, and when once we initiate the project in the initial stage only, we can define exactly what do we require, in different rule sets. Whenever we initiate any particular project, we know that this particular project is going to be a residential project, a commercial one, whether the owner or the client is going to sell it out, or they are going to utilize the property in future for operations and maintenance purposes. So according to these requirements, which are already defined in EIR, the IDS rule sets needs to be defined, so that we are able to define exactly what information is required and in what particular format. So now we are on the last segment of the today's discussion, which is how you can actually implement this. First of all, before implementing IDS on a actual real project, we need to understand the governance maturity inside your organization or your team.
Mm,
So a maturity model helps team avoid unrealistic thinking, first of all. So if you map out the actual maturity, then only you will be able to understand where needs to be the work, where we need to work more on, So the goal is not to basically jump immediately to the full automation over here. So what we have discussed today, unfortunately, I'm not able to showcase is that we are not defining to automate everything over here. The goal is to understand where the organization is today and what the next practical step should be. So the different maturity levels is that the level one, which is the visual review only. So if your organization is only focusing on, visual reviews, how the model appears, how the drawing appears, and the coordination views are good enough or not, whether you can cut down a section from a model or not, then that is the level one maturity. Then the level two is manual information checks. So sometimes what we have seen now is on some projects where you are doing 4D and 5D, a lot of BIM managers start reviewing the information through the schedules inside Revit manually, for each and every particular element. So that is level two of maturity where you create some spreadsheets or some schedule extracted data inside Excel and then you check it manually. Then level three is standardized authoring environment, where you actually define templates, shared parameters, naming logic, and content rules, where the information that is inside the model becomes consistent, but checking is still limited. So
Mm.
in level 3, you are defined exactly what needs to be there and how it will be there, but you do not know how you can check it, whether the information is correct or wrong. Then the level 4 is rule based validation. So in level 4 is the initial stage of IDS, where you define the rules and you start checking your model for each and every one particular rule. So that is the level 4 of maturity. Then the level 5, which is the highest maturity level, which is governed and auditable by BIM delivery. So in that, the organization basically treats your model information quality as managed delivery capability. So when your model is treated as the ultimate source of information inside an organization, then it becomes the level 5 maturity. So if you are not
Interesting.
bothered about for creating a model just for sake of 2D drawings extraction or simple views extraction, you actually create a model for operations purposes, for maintenance purposes. You put in the specific informations of each and every elements, and we have kind of skipped MEP over here, because MEP is the major chunk or the most important discipline where this information is heavily important for the facility management and the operations team. If you have a very good MEP model with the right information inside each and every element, then it does wonders. And I have personally seen that how it has helped a lot of operational teams. So this is the different levels of maturity models. Now, because when you are going to actually implement ideas on a real case project, the leadership will have different perspective and mindset towards that. So why the leadership should take care about it? Because ideas for them will sound another term like BIM, which is something related to a technology, which BIM really sounds to them. So we need to make them understand that IDS is not just a technology term. It is a delivery risk and a trust issue on the model that the organization is creating. So it reduces, first of all, it reduces the manual
Rework.
work
Mm.
and rework. And senior stakeholders may not, care about the terminology IDS or XML or
Correct.
these particular terminologies, but they do definitely care about the delivery
Delivery.
confidence and
Mm.
project risk, rework,
Correct.
and handover reliability. So if let's say somebody is on the contractor side, and when once they need to hand over it to the client or the facility management team, the importance of a good data model will be realized at that particular stage. So that is why the data governance should be framed as a strategic performance issue rather than a technology or a model requirement, so that it helps project issues with better information, with less ambiguity, and better evidence of quality. Basically, a project that validates mandatory data months before handover avoids the late stage emergency cleanups or asset information mishappenings. So if you implement ideas, you will be actually able to create a good digital twin model or a asset information model at LOD 400 or 500 level. Yeah. So as I was mentioning, you should start with a first
Pilot project.
practical pilot project. So choose one discipline or a particular package, then choose one object category. Like if, for example, we chose door today, then define 3 or 4 mandatory information requirement parameters that is actually useful for your organization and has a very clear logic towards it. Then create one simple validation rule. Define the rule. You can start with Dynamo also. You don't need to go directly jump onto a software, and you can start with Dynamo. Once you actually realize the potential of it and then you have to take it to the advanced level, then I would suggest you adopt any particular software according to your organization's requirement. Yes. So now basically the IDS needs to be defined in the EIR, AIR, or the BEP documents in the initial stage of the project itself. That this is why we call it as a strategy document as well,
Correct.
strategy rule book. So I will show you some of the examples how it should look like in a BEP
BEP
document, how
document.
the
Mm,
IDS needs to be defined. So a lot of times what we see that BEP is normally not written in a particular manner. So in the BEP, you need to first of all, so I've created this document only for the architecture doors because we were
correct.
talking about doors today. So it is specifically for doors. But in this same manner, you can define it according to the different disciplines or the different project requirements. So the first is the purpose, then the scope, what it applies to, different things, then the particular specifications of different elements. So if you're defining specifications for MEB elements, then it will have different specifications for, let's say, pumps, valves, control units, and everything. Then the different clear openings or whatever the requirement is. Then you need to define which project templates will be used, which families needs to be utilized for it, and then the modeling rules, everything. So this is how you can define it. I will share this document with you as well so that you can circulate it if somebody
Yes.
requires it. So
Yes.
this is how it needs to be defined.
So
And
this is as a part of the BIM execution plan you add as appendixes.
yes. All right. Uh, Now we are at the final slide, which is the final takeaway. So the final takeaway of this entire masterclass is that BIM quality is not only what is modeled. It is BIM quality is what can be defined, validated, and trusted. All right.
Right.
Basically a visually advanced model that fails basic information requirement is not yet a high performance BIM deliverable. All right. That's it from my
Perfect.
side. Thank you
Perfect.
so much
Thank you. Thank you so much, Arvind. This was really insightful.
for this opportunity, and thank you everyone for giving me your valuable time and hearing me out. Thank you
Thank,
so much, Rohit, and
thank
thank you
you.
so much, TechnoStuck team, for organizing this. I really enjoyed it and loved the whole process.
Perfect. Thank you. And everybody who have attended today's session, students and aspiring students who have attended today's session, thank you. And stay tuned with TechnoStrat Academy more for such amazing master classes. Thank you all once again for joining today's session. Thank you everyone. Have a good night all of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.